Hello students, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to take a look at what is the relationship between the average cost and the marginal cost curve. Before we move on to the relation, we'll take a look at each of these curves individually and then we'll take a look at the relation between these two curves. So without wasting any time further, let's get started. Now when we talk about average cost refers to the cost per unit of output. It can be calculated as total cost over total output. Another way to calculate it is average variable cost plus average fixed costs. Now when we talk about fixed costs are the costs that do not change with the level of output, such as rent for factory space or salaries for managers. Variable cost, on the other hand, do change with the level of output, such as wages for workers or material used in the production process. Let's take a look at how average cost would be represented graphically. So in this particular schedule, we see that we have output listed upwards from 0 to 5 units, and we see average cost which is listed as 18, 11, 9, 9 and 10. If we see and observe the trend, average cost is falling initially, it is stabilizing, and then it tends to increase again. This is what the average cost curve also depicts. So on the y-axis we have average cost and quantity of output measured on the x-axis. Now if we see, average cost is a U-shaped curve which is listed here, and we have three different segments in which we can dissect this average cost curve and we can try to find out its behavior. So the first phase is where average cost curve would fall till the point R. So this is point R in this particular diagram, and if we see, average cost curve is showing a decreasing trend. So initially when we see the output, when it begins with the first unit of output, we see that average cost is pretty high. This is simply because the fixed costs are getting spread over a smaller unit of output. So the AC curves would tend to fall the moment output increases and the fixed costs are spread over larger units. However, as the outputs continue to rise, the variable costs would start to rise due to the law of diminishing returns. Now this would simply mean that after reaching its minimum point and being stable for 2 consecutive levels of output, we can see that the average cost would tend to rise. So the phase 2 is the one where the average cost is touching its minimum level and is becoming stable. So we can see that average cost is constant between S and T. So it's output number 3 and 4. And the same is visible here, output number 3 and 4, average cost is constant at 9. And this is the place where the firm is experiencing constant returns to scale. In phase 1, when average cost is falling, it is because of decreasing returns, as I mentioned earlier. Now post this point, which is point T or the 4th output level or 4th unit of output, we'll see that average cost is rising again. So this is the phase 3. After point 3, it would start rising. Now why is it rising? Because the firm is now experiencing diseconomies of scale. Now let us take a look at what is the marginal cost curve. So when we look at the marginal cost curve, by definition it means the cost of one additional unit produced. Alright. So every additional unit that is getting produced in the firm, the cost incurred for producing that additional unit is generally termed as the marginal cost, and it is written as MC. Now in this particular schedule, we can see we have output, we have total cost and we have marginal cost. The difference between two total costs would give me my marginal cost for that particular unit. So we have output again going up from 0 to 5, total cost going up from 12 to 47. For those who don't know what total cost is, you can check out my previous video where I've dissected the total cost, and we are carrying with the same example from that video as well. So this is total cost and this is marginal cost. So how did we arrive at this marginal cost? It's basically the difference between total cost of two individual outputs. So when we talk about marginal cost at unit 1, it is simply the difference between total cost of unit 1 minus total cost of unit 0. Likewise, here it is the total cost of unit 2 minus the total cost of unit 1, and this way we have calculated further 3 units of output. Now the same is depicted here in the graph here. So at 1 unit of output, the marginal cost is 6, at the second unit it is 4, at the third unit it is 5, which is here, at the fourth unit it is 9, and at the fifth unit it is 11. When we join all these pointers, we get this curve, which is generally called as a U-shaped or J-shaped curve. Now, why is this curve getting this shape? It is simply because of the law of variable proportions. Now, what does this law state? This law states that as a firm increases the quantity of one variable input while keeping all other inputs fixed, the marginal product of the variable input will eventually decrease. In simple words, as a firm produces more output, it will eventually become more difficult to increase the output by one more unit. And this will happen because a firm will eventually start to run into bottlenecks or inefficiencies. Say for example, if a firm has a limited amount of factory space, or it may be difficult to hire or train new workers in a short period of time. As a result, this firm will have to pay more to produce each additional unit of output. So if we see the slope, it initially slopes downwards because the firm is able to take advantage of increasing returns to scale. So that's what I've written here. It would fall initially due to increasing returns to scale. Then it would reach at its minimum point, which is 4 in this case, and post this level of output, the marginal cost would rise steeply because the firm would now experience decreasing returns to scale. Now, when we talk about the minimum point, which is 4 here, it is simply because the firm is experiencing constant returns to scale. So this is the point where the firm is able to produce each additional unit of output at the same cost per unit. Beyond this point, which is the second unit of output, the MC curve would slope upwards as the firm is experiencing diseconomies of scale, as I mentioned, or decreasing returns to scale. Now this means that the firm will have to pay more to produce each additional unit of output. So when we talk about the relationship between AC and MC curve, this is how the relationship between AC and MC curve would be depicted. So we have this blue curve, which is the marginal cost curve. The black curve is the AC curve or the average cost curve. We have both the costs listed on the y-axis, quantity of output on the x-axis. Now initially, average cost is greater than marginal cost, or we can say that marginal cost curve lies below the average cost curve. Why is this happening? Simply because the production of each additional unit of output is reducing the average cost of production, and we can see that in the initial phases the average cost is falling. Now this is the second phase here, where at point B AC is equal to MC, or we can say that average costs are equal to marginal costs. Now in this case, we need to remember that the marginal cost curve is intersecting the AC curve at its minimum point. This is simply because the production of each additional unit of output is neither increasing nor decreasing the average cost of production. The third phase is to the right of this point, where marginal cost curve lies above the average cost curve, and we see that the average cost is increasing beyond this point B. Now this is because the production of each additional unit of output is increasing the average cost of production. However, we need to see that the rate of increase between the two curves, we see that MC is increasing at a rate which is much faster than the average cost curve. Now why is this happening? Because each additional unit that the firm is now producing post point B, it is spending more on each additional unit. Another thing we need to remember here is that AC curve depends on the marginal cost curve. So when marginal cost is smaller than AC or marginal cost curve lies below average cost curve, it will pull the average cost curve down. Likewise, when average cost curve is lying below the marginal cost curve, it will pull average cost curve up. And when marginal cost is equal to the average cost, or they are more or less at the same point, we'll see that the marginal cost curve is intersecting the average cost curve at its minimum point. So this is how the relationship between AC and MC is supposed to be studied. Now it is really important for all the businesses to identify this equity, because it will help them to know what is their optimum level of output that they should be producing. At what levels they are having some spare capacity, or they are facing diseconomies of scale. If you like my videos, please do like and subscribe to my channel. If you feel that these videos are going to help your friends, please share it with your friends as well. I'll meet you in another video with another topic. Bye now.